Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Keeper Action News studio. Mick Muller alongside Alan Hoshida here for the Monday Trifecta podcast. We're at episode 6 already.
Wow.
It's been going by super fast. I've been counting the episodes, and
it's good.
Episode 6, we're doing pretty well. We got a lot to get into today, so not a lot of time to waste. So let's get right into it, starting with the Dust Devils. Last night, the Dust Devils were able to get a big victory. You were actually in attendance last night.
Yeah,
watching as a fan as opposed to a sports reporter.
Yeah, we had the Keeper barbecue, so that was good. We had barbecue before the game. Good stuff. It was fun to watch. They got off a little slow start, but came back and won. So that was always good. And now they're kind of primed and set up for a really good ending to their year if they can keep things going. So they're in a good spot. You were there last 3 days.
Yeah, and like you said, they started off slow, but they were able to get it back. That's kind of been the story for this homestand. The one loss that they lost 8-2, it was the same thing. They started off slow, were able to get 2 runs later in the game, but then they had built themselves in such a big hole that they weren't able to recover from that. The Dust Devils right now, as it stands, are second in the Northwest League North standings, which for them is a good sign because we were able to unpack again the confusion that goes around with the playoff seeding. Yeah. And so it works this way. It's not like the Sweets where if Spokane wins and they come in second, then it goes to the overall. It actually is going to come to whoever has the second best record in the second half standing.
Win percentage, I think, yeah.
If the season were to end today, Tri-City Dust Devils would be going to the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. Spokane is 19-12. Tri-City second behind them, 2 games back at 17-14. And then Everett is that team that you need to keep an eye on. They are 15-16, 4 games back on Spokane, 2 games back on the Dust Devils. What do you think the chances are that the Tri-City Dust Devils are able to take care of business and go to the playoffs this season?
I think they're pretty good. I mean, they have a 2-game lead, which is nice to have with only about a week and a half left. It ends, I believe, on September. I don't need to say I believe because I have it right in front of me. September 2nd, last 3 against Spokane. So they could realistically even go after that top spot if they are still within 2, and then they do well against Spokane. But the good thing for them is they don't play Everett again this season.
Yeah.
So there's no 2-game swings. There's no, like, if they were going head-to-head, it's kind of 2 games isn't that much because if you lose one and they win, that's a 2-game swing, and they're right there. So they got a good spot, and they're playing good, and they have the pitching working, kind of. They have their hits, timely hits, and right now they're playing probably the best consistent baseball they have all year. I think they're 4-2 on their 7-game homestand. Tonight is their final homestand game, Game 7 and Game 4 against Boise. If they can win this one, 3 out of 4 against the team is always good. And then they'll go on the road, last road trip against Vancouver, and then we'll come home for the final 3 against Spokane. And then I know tomorrow they have an off day, and they're actually having their annual golf tournament that day. So that'll be fun.
Looking at the schedule, they really own their own destiny. If they want to go to the playoffs, it's on them, like it always should be. Like you said, 7 games remaining. They play Boise tonight to wrap up that 4-game series. Boise's actually 1-9 in their last 10 games. Yeah. So they've been struggling, and tonight is an opportunity for you to go out and take advantage of that and get a big victory before going on the road against Vancouver. And they haven't had a lot of success against the Canadians. The Canadians are the last team in the Northwest League North standings, but for some reason the Dust Devils have struggled up in Vancouver. But that's an opportunity also where you're playing a team that's not as good as you. If you can get 2 out of the 3 or even sweep going into that last series against Spokane, who's right now number 1, you literally are putting yourself in a position where you can control your own destiny. Take care of business tonight, take care of business on the road against Vancouver, and then a 3-game series. We don't know how it's going to shape up, how the standings, how the records, all that going to go. It could be in a position where Tri-City could take out Spokane and really secure that playoff spot without having to worry about any other.
I'm sure they'd like to just win it outright. They don't want to leave it up to anything. So if they just go out and win, if they go, 7 games left, they go 5-2, if they go 5-2 in this last 7, they have a really good shot at kind of winning that overall because a couple of those wins will probably be against Spokane in that situation. So yeah, they're in a good spot. Logan Driscoll coming back in the lineup. He battled back from injury. He's been in the lineup now for a while now, but you can tell why he was such a high draft pick, the highest draft pick out of George Mason ever, and he hits the ball hard. A lot of many of his hits are all for extra bases compared to just a single here and there, and he hits the ball hard, and he's kind of coming into his own. And having him back in that lineup is a weapon for Manager McCoy.
And he's also a local DMV kid, which, if you don't know what that means, if you think it's the Department of Motor Vehicles, it's actually the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. And I talked to him a couple weeks back. He actually played for the Bethesda Big Train, which is essentially kind of what the Sweets and the Pippins are. Mm-hmm. And I went to a lot of those games growing up, so it's kind of cool to kind of build that connection. He's been great. I think another player that we haven't talked that much about is Kelvin Melion. Last night he had a huge RBI double to a 2 RBI double to put the team in good position. He is batting .329 on the year. That's number 1 on the team. Has 27 RBIs, that's 3rd, and has 57 hits, that's 2nd. We've talked a lot about Jordy Barley, Reynaldo Ilarraza. Kelvin Melion is going to be a player to watch these last couple games because he has been consistently in a position where if they play small ball and put a runner in scoring position, he's always capable of bringing them home. I think Melion has played extremely well for the Dust Devils. We'll keep an eye on him. Let's transition to this. The Americans opened up training camp on Thursday. You were there for the first day.
Yep.
Yesterday was the blue versus white scrimmage that I was in attendance to. I want to turn the time over to you quickly to kind of talk about what training camp was like on Thursday. What was the tone? What do you feel like this team's going to do to the table?
Thursday was the youngsters, the 03s, 04s. These are guys that are the first years out of the Bantam draft or second year, and a lot of those guys are not going to make the team this year. It was kind of to get their feet wet for this training camp, and there were guys like Marc Lajoie. He's got a very French last name, but he was there for the youngsters, but he's a guy that they're counting on to be a contributor for this season on the defense for AMS, because the AMS got to figure out their defense. They have some holes, and he's someone that they relied on. He was one of their high draft picks from a couple seasons ago. So that Thursday is you're not going to see a lot of these guys that carry over into the season. You might see here and there they come up for a few games. When you're underage, you can come up for a few games and get your feet wet. And then Friday was the big day where the veterans all kind of report, and then the young guys that are still there into Friday, and they're there throughout camp. And then today they just made some cuts. But Friday's the big day, Friday, Saturday, and then obviously on Sunday they all come together. But my first impressions, just kind of walking the tunnel that smells super great. If you've ever been in a hockey tunnel or a hockey locked dressing room, it is fantastic.
Rough.
It is fantastic. But the guys look bigger. So a lot of them look like they put on some weight in the offseason. I saw Blake Stevenson, and I was like, oh, you look bigger. So guys have looked bigger. Even Kyle Olson looks bigger. He's a 20-year-old. Beck Warm, he looks like he's in very good shape. And I know Beck is coming off a very good camp with the Capitals in their development camp. And then Sasha Mutala, obviously the AMS third-round pick, he looks even bigger too. And he's going to head off to rookie camp soon for the Avs. I think I might have said just AM's third-round pick, but the Avs third-round pick, the Avalanche. So the guys look bigger, and if that's something you could take away, hopefully that means they're bigger, stronger, faster, what everyone wants, but at least that also means that they stayed in shape in the offseason and they've came to play. And Beck actually won the overall fitness award, so your goalie won the best fitness when they come back for a training. So that was good to see, and they look like they're in good shape. And I mean, as a coach, you don't want your guys coming in out of shape.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that even on the professional level when players come out of shape, and it just really sets the tone that this is going to be a rough season, because if your star players aren't the ones working in the offseason, getting better each and every day, that kind of sets the tone and the culture for the season going forward. The Americans also tweeted out just a couple minutes before we went on that the AMs have reduced their training camp roster to 36 players. They currently have 4 goaltenders, 13 defensemen, and 19 forwards. We'll be planning on going out to practice here in a couple, maybe even today, just to get a little bit more feel of the team. But, my takeaway was the intensity of this team is going to be very, very important. There were a couple fights yesterday in the blue versus white scrimmage, which I thought was amazing, because you see that in hockey, you see that all in sports, guys get into each other's face and they really want to put their best foot forward. But to have that happen in a blue versus white scrimmage shows me and tells me that this team is hungry, that every player wants an opportunity to make the team, and they want an opportunity to not only make the team, but make a difference on the team. The blue team won 6-4, and it was a game of runs that felt like a basketball game at one point. It was 1-1 after the first period, and then the blue team went on fire in the second period, scored 4 goals. It was 5-1 going into the third, and I was just like, this can either go one or two ways. Like, it's just going to be stagnant, and it's kind of like in pickup when it gets like out of hand, it's just going to get real sloppy, or the white team's going to bounce back. And that's what they did. The white team scored 3 goals. It was 5-4 with like 3 minutes left in the scrimmage, and then the blue team scored yet again to kind of give that two-goal gap. But yeah, my main takeaway is that the intensity of this team is extremely high. The competition levels are always going to be at maximum level, because every player on this team wants to make the team and make a difference. Booker Daniel is going to be a player to keep an eye out. He was injured last year, so he didn't have a lot of opportunities to be out there on the ice. He scored 2 goals, 2 beautiful goals in the scrimmage yesterday. I talked to him after, and he just said he's super happy to be back on the team. He's super happy to be healthy and be able to go out there and play. And he also talked about how some of the younger players, there is a little bit of pressure because you want to be able to perform, but he kind of just had that leadership mentality. Was like, my advice to them is just go play loose. You got drafted for a reason, and remember that when you're
Well,
on
he's
ice.
definitely a guy that's going to have to make the team. I mean, there are spots open, and that's a good showing from him. And just kind of looking at things, they lost 90 goals last year between Parker, Coyne leaving, Nolan Yaremko. Their leading goal scorers are off the team, so they got to find goals. So if Booker Daniel can be part of that, other guys that I think need to step up this year are Tom Cadeau, and because he was a high pick, and they want more from him, and Caden Cole, I think, are also two guys that they would like to see a lot of development from those guys this year, who had a kind of up and down seasons last year as rookies. So those are two guys that, if they take the next step, they're going to be in good hands. Obviously, it's very early. I asked Kyle Olson, the new captain, kind of about second year under Coach Buckberger, and he just said they know what to expect. They know kind of how Coach Buckberger, his schedule for things, and just how much that's easier, so that, last year coming in training camp, they didn't know what it was going to be like. So they're more used to the system, and they're ready. Like you said, the intensity is always there, but that was a hallmark from the team last year, and that was something that Coach Buckberger brought to this team, is that they were going to compete every game. There wasn't a whole lot of games that they got blown out. They were in every game. They weren't maybe always the most talented team that was on the ice, but they grinded, and they were right there for every game. And maybe it was a goal here or there that changed things, but they're going to be in there, and they played to their strengths. So it'll be interesting to see how this roster all shakes out. There's going to be some more cuts happening. Obviously, they're not going to keep 4 goalies, but their roster is up as of right now. It's up on their website, and there's some names on there, and there's quite the potential here. But I really liked the fitness level and how big they came in, and how they looked in that first 3 days.
Yeah, and I came here when they were just getting ready to start that playoff series against Everett, so I didn't have the opportunity to see the full entire season. I only saw the playoffs, and the team mantra that I picked up, and Coach Buckberger told me this, was meat and potatoes. That's kind of the team that they wanted to really be, is meat and potatoes. Nothing too fancy, going to go out there and grind, and like you said, fitness, intensity, competition, all of those things are big contributing factors to them being successful this year, and it looks like they are establishing that in training camp.
It'll be interesting, though, because every team's a little bit different, and I don't know if they'll have the grinders that they had. Like Parker and Nolan were grinders. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this team develops, and how this team is a little bit different from the year before, because 2 years ago, that team was all skill. Last year was a meat and potatoes team, and it's just every team's going to be a little different, so it'll be cool, and as covering any team, how they figure out their identity. And once you find out your identity as a team, you kind of know how you guys are going to be throughout the year, and what you guys got to play to, what your strengths are going to be.
Yeah, and being an athlete, that's not only on the coaches, but the players as well, to be true to themselves and know what you do well and what you need to work on, and parts and aspects of your game that you really shouldn't go out there and try to perform. So it's going to be a collective unit of trying to figure out that team identity. Speaking of training camps, let's transition to this. I'm recently coming off back surgery, so I haven't been able to get out in the field and do our keeper camp tour. Today's going to be my first day, but Alan Hoshida has been holding it down today. We're going to talk some of the smaller schools in the area and our takeaways of camp so far. I'll turn the time over to you and your expertise. What have you seen from the smaller schools in the state?
Well, we're going to start. We're going to go 2B all the way up to 2A today, and then next week, don't worry, we haven't forgot about our 3A, 4A powers that are out there. But yeah, we're going to start with 2B, just kind of how I did the Keeper Camp Tour. That's how I always do it every year. This is the 3rd annual Keeper Camp Tour, and I always started small schools and built our way up, and have a preview or two every day leading up to Thursday night, which Kamaikan opens on a Thursday night against West Valley. So we kind of keep the momentum going everywhere. And I started with Tri-Cities Prep. They had an outstanding year last year. Got derailed by injuries at the end of the year. Dante Mari, the starting quarterback, had a knee injury late in the year, couldn't play in the playoffs, and it was really what could have been. Because if he was playing, they were going to be very, very hard to beat. They had to go to their second-string quarterback, and then Kobe Singleton would come in and do a little bit in their final game. But the vibe I got from their camp is that, they lost a lot of guys. They lost a lot on the O-line. But they think the guys that are ready to step in they have the experience of being behind, like Leo and David Wilson and those guys, and they can build off that experience. But they're going to take time to gel. So that's going to take some time, and Coach Whitsett said we got to play to our strengths while our team figures out. Just like we talked about with the AMs, everyone's got to figure out their identity. their skill positions, they like their weapons at wide receiver. He said half his team is wide receivers, so that's kind of good. He's going to open it up.
Hopefully they're not diva wide receivers, because that's just,
no,
that's
probably
kind of
not.
going around football right now.
Yeah. And then Dante Myrie is back. He's wearing a knee brace. He looks good. He looks fluid. He's been going to camps all summer, so he's in shape there. So I think they lost a lot, and maybe people think they're going to take a step back, but they're still going to be really competitive. They're still going to be one of the better teams in our area in 2B, and they're still going to contend for the EWAC title, which they've actually owned the last kind of couple years. So I don't expect them to really take a huge step back, but I do say if there's an opportunity for other 2B schools and other teams in the EWAC to kind of step up, this might be your year. And speaking of those schools, it's like Columbia and Liberty Christian, I think, are your two that really could contend. Columbia, you go out there. Last year they moved down from 1A to 2B. No one really knew what to expect from the Coyotes. And they came in and competed, and they excelled, and they went 6-1 in conference, and they were the team right behind TCP. And they feel like all that momentum they built last year it has fed into the offseason program. They have guys coming back and winning. As you know, winning breeds confidence. And so the numbers are up. So that's really cool. They still have Abe Garcia, who is an all-conference running back. They have Jake DeBoard, who was an all-conference linebacker. He also plays running back. So they have two big assets behind them. And they're going to have a new quarterback. The competition is still open, so they don't know who it's going to be. But when you can hand it off and a guy's been all-conference, it's going to make things a lot easier.
It's like the Cowboys with Dak. Like, Dak has been so successful because he's got a guy that behind him, he can give it to him, get 5-6 yards every single play. Dante. Also, to piggyback off Dante Myrie, I'm not very familiar with all the teams yet. This is going to be my first season, but I have seen a lot of the videos that he's posted on Twitter, and he does look like he's healthy, and it sounds like TCP. They did lose Kobe Singleton, but it sounds like they have been able to bring in players and kind of build that culture.
They're going to definitely need
next man up.
They're just definitely going to. It's not going to be one guy who replaces that productivity of Kobe, who's now at Chihuahua, but they're going to have to do a by committee type thing. But the team that I really think that might surprise people in 2B this year is Liberty Christian. Just going out to Coach Lucan's camp, they look good. And just kind of the same thing when you walk into camp at like Americans camp, they look good. When a team looks the part, you know that they've been doing some work in the offseason. They look bigger. He said they're in the best shape that they've been in coming out of offseason, and he recruited in the halls. He got a couple big boys that he knew that he needed to get on the line to compete with some of the bigger teams. TCP is one of the bigger teams in EWAC, and they have Curtis Morgan, who's coming back for his third year under center. He was the offensive MVP in the EWAC last year, and again, it's kind of a theme. He has weapons at their skill positions. They have a McClure brother, Grant, I believe, who big guy, like 6'1", 6'2". They have Flowers, who's also a big wide receiver. Aiden Lesser is coming back. His brother is John, who set a bunch of records throughout his career. Aiden came back. He had a broken collarbone, so he's going to play a little wide receiver, but also they're really excited about what he brings at the safety level, and he can fly around, and they're going to go after people. I really think that if Liberty, but their schedule is so tough off the top. They go TCP, Asotin, and Manson. All three of those teams are perennial playoff teams. So we'll find out if my confidence in them and what I believe is going to be a breakout year for them, we'll find out in those first 3 weeks. Because if you go 2-1 or 3-0, you're looking really good. But if you go 1-2 or 0-3, then all that confidence kind of built up over the offseason. These are just kids too. You gotta have some good vibes.
Yeah. Also, if you go 0-3, that really hurts playoff chances.
Well, not necessarily, because the way that the WIAA does it, it goes conference. So if you go, if they went, though, all three of those teams, only one of those teams are in conference. So TCP is the only team that's in conference. The other ones are all out of conference. So those are more like measuring sticks. Because if you came and you lost those first three and then you ran out, you'd still be 6-1 in conference. And you probably would finish second or third. And in 2B, a lot of teams get to go to playoffs. So if you're in the top four, they're going to go to playoffs in your conference alone. But for confidence levels, you want to get off to a good start.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about the team that has the dopest helmet in the state. You
Prosser?
told me, yeah, Prosser.
2A. We got to go 1A first.
Oh, 1A.
1A. We got to go. We got to still build it up. build it up. But Prosser does have the most iconic helmet, in my opinion, in the state. But we'll get there. Right now, we'll go to 1A. Connell and Royal are the schools that I stopped at. I've also heard some rumblings that Warden is going to be in the mix, and this is in the SCAC, the SCAC, as some people like to call it. But for anyone who thinks, I mean, I would love for Warden to compete with Connell and Royal, but until it happens, I don't know.
Because isn't Royal the team that won like 50-something games in a row and has been a dominant
54,
program?
I think. Yeah, and they don't look like they're taking much of a step back. I was out there last week. I was actually at both Connell and Royal on Friday, and both teams don't look like they're taking a step back. They both are big. They both have guys, and I would love to see Warden compete with those two, but I still think Royal and Connell are going to be the class of the SCAC, and it's going to be a good game to watch them go head-to-head. It's one of the best rivalries in the state, Royal and Connell, no matter what level. Now, when they get together, it's always a good game. It's always smash mouth, and usually it's really tight the first half, and then some things happen. Royals kind of dominated the last few years because they've just dominated everyone the last few years. They're on a 7-game winning streak over the Eagles. But again, going out to Connell practice, the biggest thing I got from them is that they're hungry. Like last year, they were missing that hunger. And for any successful team in any sport, if you're not hungry, you're not going to win very many games. And just talking to Coach Reiner and the guys, and just they said hunger. And it was really funny. I asked Keon Francois, okay, where's that hunger come from? He goes, well, if you're not hungry, you can't eat. One of the greatest quotes from camp so far.
Great soundbite.
Because yeah, I mean, if you're not hungry, you can't eat, and that's athletes speak for going off and stuff. So I think Connell, they have a new quarterback, Traver Johnson, and he's a big kid, 6'2", 185. So maybe we could put on a few lbs, but he's got a good arm. And last year, Austin Smith had a shoulder injury, so he couldn't throw it downfield, and a lot of teams knew that, so they key in on that. And so having a guy that can really open up the playbook and throw it downfield is going to help out that Eags offense. Royal's going to be Royal. I know that they lost Angel Hernandez, they lost Sawyer Jenks, and they lost a lot of other guys. Jack Diaz, they lost some dudes. But they're Royal, and they've reloaded. Caleb Christensen, their new quarterback, looks really good. He had really good timing with the wide receivers. I was out there for basically all of practice, and there was only maybe a handful of balls that hit the ground for the wide receivers and on passing plays. So he looks good. He looks in time with his players. Cooper Christensen, not related to Caleb Christensen, also looked good. And then they have a couple sophomores that are big, and they're going to be linebackers, and they're going to help people. And so Royal's going to be good, and I think they have a tough schedule always. They always do. They go with they go with Othello. I have it right here. Let me just tell you. They go Ellensburg, Othello. That's what they've kind of been doing the last few years. And they also have on their schedule a couple other big games. Okanagan was a good game because they're always usually good. So they also have Connell. So that schedule's tough, but as we've seen, Royal usually comes out of it pretty good in a pretty good spot. So I still think Royal and Connell are the class of the SCAC until proven otherwise, and I think you're going to be surprised by the offense of the Eagles. I think they are going to put up more numbers than they did last year. So now we can talk about Prosser. Now we can talk about Prosser. I was just out there. Forgot what day it was. I think it was Thursday. We got these previews. I try and get them out in advance, and then we kind of roll them out. And Prosser is just, I'm very optimistic about all our teams, all the teams in our area, because I feel like everyone is optimistic at this time because they've not played any games,
it's kind of hard to be not optimistic at training camp. That's not exactly the vibe you want to give your team. No.
So there was good, but there's good feelings out there. New quarterback is Hayden Hicks. He was all-conference wide receiver last year and had a brutal back injury. He had to get surgery, and he was out for the rest of the year. And he came back in I want to say it was 6 weeks, 2 months maybe. Came back and had an MVP-type basketball season because he's really a hooper right now. That's where his love is. He's a hooper, and he had a great year. And I've never seen that as some type of recovery. And I remember talking to him at one point, and he wasn't sure if he was going to play football again because, there's just have a bad back injury. I think it was a broken vertebrae or something.
And when you're playing those two sports, you do hit a crossroad in which you have to choose one of those two. I hit that. I've had multiple friends hit that, but the fact that he can recover and do both is really amazing.
Yeah, and he looked good out there. He's obviously, you could tell that he's still learning the offense. Talked to Coach Ingolson and their quarterback coach, Tanner Bolt, who's actually the last Prosser quarterback to win a state title. But I talked to both of them, and they said he's still, learning the offense, and it's different than having Will Weidman, who'd been there the last couple of years, who'd been under center and kind of knew the system. So he's still learning the offense, and as you can expect, but he is a little more athletic than Will. And a little, I mean a lot. Mm-hmm. So he's going to hurt people if a play breaks down. He's going to take off. And there was one play at practice where I caught it a little bit late, so I don't know if it was a design run, but he took off the sideline and outran the entire team for like a 70-yard touchdown. So he is going to be an issue there, but it's not just him. They lost guys too, but they have Logan Calendoza. I always get this wrong. I'm going to get it right, so I'm going to look at it. They have guys, if I could just pull this up, Candenoza.
I think we should have pronunciation guides given
Ryan
to us so we don't like butcher these
But he's
names.
a senior. He's been there a long time, so I apologize, Logan, for getting that a little rough. But he's been there. I talked to him, and he's excited about his senior year. He's kind of been waiting his term, and now he's going to be the feature back. And then they have Will Thompson on the outside, who is an all-conference wide receiver too. So again, like each place I've gone, skill positions have been really good, and they lost pretty much an all-conference offensive line last year, defensive line. But Coach I is also enthused about these guys that he has coming up and stepping in. So it'll be interesting to think. I've talked to someone else, and they believe that Prosser, one of the other guys that goes around to doing a lot of previews, Micah Chen, he was also there when I was there, and he thought Prosser looked really good too. So it's not just me.
There are other people out there who are high on Prosser, not only for their helmets, but the ability that they have on the field.
Yeah, so it'll be cool to see. Oh, and Logan plays like the rover position too, like a Mark Barron type thing. So that's really cool. I like that on their defense. But yeah, I expect them. I expect them to be at the top of the CWAC, if not the top of the CWAC. That's how good I think they're going to be this year. And then hopefully they don't get Tumwater in the first round.
Which guessing Tumwater is
it's
a
bad
squad.
Well, they're always good. They're always good. Tumwater's always good, but Prosser won the CWAC last year. They were a conference champion, and they had to go on the road to go take on another team that's like miles away. It's over on the west side, and it just wasn't. The WIAA selection committee, it was new last year. They did a really good job for the most part. There was a couple things that I wasn't like super high on, and I'm not part of the committee, so I can't really complain that much, but that was one of them. I thought that was a little egregious of having Prosser go on the road to Tumwater for the opening round of the state bracket. But overall, I thought the selection committee did do a pretty good job. That was just maybe one of my, could have been
one of your beefs with them.
One of my beefs. But they played well. They went out there and they competed out there, and they never used that excuse. I used it as a.
You can use that because you're,
I'm just looking at it from the outside. Yeah. Yes, sir. But yeah, I think with the 2B, 1A, and 2A, I think there's some legitimate teams that can make a run into the state bracket. I don't know how far they'll go. I mean, Royal Connell, every other year they could have the team that goes all the way. Royal won back to back to back. They were going for the rare quadruple state championships. That didn't actually happen. They lost to Colville last year, and so they didn't get that done. But they're always going to be there, so I think Royal will make a deep run. Connell, if they can turn this hunger into something real, can make a run. Prosser, they're raw, the quarterback position, but if they can, everything else comes together, I think they're also another team that can make a run. And 2B, you can always make a run in 2B. Just got to make it.
So it's all wide open, as Alan Hoshida would say. Is that your Keeper Camp Tour wrap-up?
Yeah, sure.
All teams?
Yeah. And then next week, again, we'll have 3A, 4A. Hopefully, we'll have practice because I don't know if you guys know, but the Kennewick teachers are possibly
on strike or
they're
going to possibly be on strike.
I know they were doing a rally earlier today, so I'm going to make some phone calls, going to work the phone lines and find out what that means for sports, not just football, because obviously we love football, but we're going to touch on volleyball and soccer. Girls soccer is going to be this season. We'll touch on all those. But I want to find out what that kind of means across the board. I've heard, maybe they won't have practices, so I don't know, and I don't have that information right now. But that is something that we definitely need to figure out here by tomorrow.
Yeah, not only a story that's affecting news, but sports as well. But we'll keep you updated as we get the information. Just quickly, let's go over some storylines and news stories coming out of the area.
Quick hitters.
Quick hitter. Last week we had Mason Martin on the show. Shout out to Mason. Thank you for joining us. We had a great conversation with him last week. It was announced yesterday that he was named the Minor League Player of the Year for the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. Something that when it happened and I saw it, I think you retweeted it first, and then I saw it. That's why I saw it from. Wasn't shocked at all.
No.
Has had a tremendous season. Last week when we talked to him, he had 32 home runs. He hit another 2 this week, so he's up to 34 through 125 games. So he's very deserving of winning that award. I don't think I was shocked. I don't think you were shocked. Don't think many members of the organization were shocked. He has been playing great. He's only 20 years old, so he's got a very bright future ahead of him.
And that was Baseball America, too. So that's a pretty good – it's not like a random blog that went out and ranked it. It was Baseball America, who is a very well-respected news outlet about that. So, Mason, MILB Pirates Player of the Year. That's pretty good company, and I think he's going to start – he's 20, like you said, so he's got a couple more years maybe, but if he keeps it up, should be on his way to keep moving up in the organization.
Yep, and you got news coming out of the LA Rams organization with the local kid.
Adam Schefter tweeted out yesterday that former Falcon, Hanford Falcon, Hall of Famer out there, Aaron Neary, broke his ankle and is going to need some surgery. So that means he's going to be out some time, and he was in a battle for the backup center position out there. He was running with the 2s and 3s a little bit over the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. I'm going to reach out to him, see if we can get a comment on him, just kind of about his mindset. I know, just speaking with him, he's going to rehab, and he's going to rehab hard, and that's kind of how he has always been when he's kind of faced adversity. I mean, he's from Hanford. He went to Eastern, so he's not like a huge D1 guy, so he's always had to kind of battle, so I don't think this is going to be any different for him. But, we'll figure out how it goes, and also sometimes with injuries in preseason and training camp, the player and the team will come to a kind of like a buyout situation, so because there's only 53 men on the roster.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if the Rams try and hold on to him or if they come to an agreement or what's next. But I think for sure this maybe puts his future with the Rams at least kind of uncertain. But I'm going to figure that out and try and find out more. But not good news for Aaron, but he'll probably, he's going to rehab and get better. And it's just an ankle.
Yeah. Ankles you can kind of recover from quickly, especially in football. It's not like basketball where you have to pivot and cut as hard as you have to do in football. We are running out of time, so I think we got like 2 more minutes. Quickly, have you seen the Star Wars trailer?
Yeah.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, feelings, thoughts, quickly.
No, I thought it was good. I like that they started off with a bunch of all the footage. They went from the earliest one and built it all the way up, and then they started with they started with the new footage and kind of showed off what the games or the movie's going to look like.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was in typical Star Wars fashion where they for a minute 20 of the 2-minute trailer, they gave us footage that we've already seen, so that way they don't release footage and don't give away the movie. It's a great trailer. Check it out.
But they did reveal something at the very, very end.
Yeah. Should we spoil? I don't think by the time you hear this and see this, you should know that Rey is rocking a double-bladed lightsaber Darth Maul style.
But a red. So, I don't know if you guys know your colors in Star Wars world. Red is not great as far as if she's a good guy or a bad guy. But it could also just be she picked it up and did it after some more. But she's actually...
Or it's like she's in a vision. Because remember in Episode 5, Luke saw himself in Darth Vader's mask. And he was fighting himself. There's so many... I was reading through the comments. That's a comment.
But she's also in all black. She's in all black too.
Yeah. It's going to be... I can't wait. December 20th.
December 20th.
Can I get that day off, boss?
We'll see.
All right.
Just December 20th just popped in my head for something, so I'll have to tell you off camera, but yeah.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do this thing. Well, thank you for tuning in again for the Monday Trifecta podcast. For Alan Hoshida, I'm Mick Miller. Remember to subscribe to stay notified. We're checking out, and remember next week, MCC football previews. We need to get you a step stool. That's what we need to do. All right, we'll see you next Monday.